Hello, I am Reverend Irene Smith, and I'd like to welcome you to Generationally Speaking. Here at the table, we come and we discuss life issues, no matter what they might be. As we sit at the table with each generation, we all learn, we all grow, we all are inspired.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Generationally Speaking.
And I was like, okay, all right, God, all right, I'm all right. And then as soon as as quickly as that happened, everything sped back up, and the police were there with the stretcher, and they're putting me on the stretcher. And I was like, whoa, what just happened? And I remember getting in the stretcher, and even though you have that reassurance, there's still the natural mind is like, oh, the bullet could slip into my bloodstream and all these things. And, I'm thinking that, but at the same time, I'm reiterating, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. And I remember getting to the ER, and there were, all the nurses and doctors and stuff are checking you. And I'm telling them, I'm like, I'm all right. They're like, oh, we got to check you for internal bleeding, and we got to check this. And I'm giving them the responses that they're looking for. And they're like, oh, what are you, are you a med student or something? I'm like, no, I just know my body. I know that I'm all right. And it was crazy because there was a 3-day period when I got to the hospital. My body had swelled up, so they didn't know the extent of my injuries, and they kept me prepped for surgery for almost 3 days. And so there was a 3-day period where I couldn't, eat or drink at all, anything, because the doctor's like, we don't know if we're going to have to send you into emergency surgery or not. But kind of backing up a little bit, when I got to the hospital, it was insane. It was the only moment that I got emotional about during the whole process. And people you didn't cry? I'm like, no, it burned more than anything. And I was like, not gonna cry about that. But I got to the hospital, and as soon as I got in, there were people in the ER, family in the ER already. And I was like, I just got in here. How y'all get here already? Right? And the police officer came in, and he was like, sir, I need you to issue a statement. I was like, why? He was like, because there's over 60 people in the ER, and more are coming apparently. And he's like, there's no more room in the ER because they won't leave until they know that you're okay. I was like, what? And so the police officer was like, yeah, you need to issue a statement. And they give you 5 visitors that can come see you while you're still in the in the OR. They kept coming back. It was like, we need you to amend this list because, your senior pastor needs to come see you. Your father, your grandfather, your great uncle, your dad, your mom. Everybody needs to. You want to come and see you. And at one point there was over 100 people.
Wow.
In the ER, and I bursted out. I'm getting emotional about it now because I always knew that I was loved, but I didn't know I was that loved.
Oh, yeah.
And one of my aunts, kind of close family friend aunt, she told me, she said, I didn't know I loved you that much. And I was like, what does that mean? Should I be offended? But she was just saying, she was like, when she heard what happened and that I was they rushed me into the hospital, she said she felt like her world came crashing down. She said she was so disoriented. From not being able to find her keys, and her keys are in her hand, to getting to her car and driving in reverse when she's going to go forward, and then driving in the wrong direction because she just couldn't, think straight,
right.
At the thought of that happening to me. And just the overwhelming response, it was I'm a part of a community that truly cares.
Yeah, and you really are, because when I was doing my research and I saw the outpouring of love, the sheer number of people far exceeded 100, and the number of people who loved you wasn't just the Chicago area. It was it was wide. It was
Yeah.
nationwide. I
Oh,
could
it was
see
worldwide.
that.
It was worldwide.
I could see that, and I was like, wow. And it didn't take them long to express their love for you.
Yeah.
So you come out of the hospital, and now you're interning, and you go through a number of positions. Tell us about some of those jobs that you acquired and were hired into before you went to college to Congress.
Yeah. So, one, I'm grateful to, all the people that have been supportive of me in my journey. I wouldn't be where I am today without, the network that has kind of come alongside me and supported me, right? And so, after the whole ordeal, I ended up going to grad school and completing grad school, and I had to learn how to walk again.
Yeah.
That was a hard process.
Wow.
I was like that guy on campus who's like walking with an old person walker, and it takes me like 30 minutes to get like on the other side of the school, and it was tragic. In that time I was like very determined. I remember I was like, I'm starting grad school, kind of in a wheelchair, and I'm like, I'm going to be walking across that stage when I'm done, right? And in that same, kind of spirit, I was like, I know DC is where I'm meant to be, right? And I was like, just trying to figure out how it was going to happen. And so one of the individuals that I met while I was here during that summer, she worked at Facebook, now Meta, and she reached out and she said, hey, we have a position opening up in the summer that I think you would be perfect for, if you're willing to apply for it. And I was like, Facebook? Like, I'm not qualified to work at Facebook. What do you mean? And she was like, look, she was like, just apply for it. She's like, I'm gonna vouch for you, and I really want you on the team. And so I did 3 rounds of interviews, and then I went to work at Facebook in a government affairs position.
Wow.
And it was an amazing experience. I'm truly grateful for it. I loved every minute of it. The perks are amazing in tech.
All right.
If anybody watching want to go to tech, this is your message to do so. But from that opportunity, a little while into it, I really wanted to work on Capitol Hill. And, about, I would say maybe like a couple months into it, maybe 4 or so, I got an offer to be a fellow on Capitol Hill for the House Select Committee on Modernization. And I was like, yeah, like this is without hesitation, yes. And so I transitioned back to Capitol Hill and I worked in tech policy, and it was just a truly amazing learning experience. And I've always been kind of a restless person, so it was just probably a problem. Because like when I think I learned enough, I'm like, all right, what's next? But I also had an interest to work in the private sector and be a lobbyist. Like I spent so much time interacting with lobbyists. I'm like, what do you guys do? Also, don't you guys make like a crap ton of money? And so an opportunity opened up for me to be a government affairs associate with another tech company called Iron Mountain. And so went there, worked for that. In the meanwhile, while doing that, I started a business. After a while Iron Mountain is a fantastic company, and the people I worked with were amazing, I realized that's not what I wanted to do. It just wasn't my interest. And so, coming into 2021, an opportunity for me to go into the public sector opened up. The founder of College to Congress decided to run for Congress, and she stepped down as CEO, and she reached out to me and she's like, hey, I decided with the board to kind of create this new position overseeing development, and I want you to take it. And I was like, maybe, I don't know. And she was like, let me rephrase that. What you're gonna do is you're gonna come take this job. We're gonna figure out a way to, pay you, your equivalent salary, and we're going to use this to as a platform to develop you and train you for what comes next. And I was like, well, you put it that way. I kind of got to do it. And so, yeah, like I joined College to Congress as the Director of Development. And it's been an amazing, journey, like coming back to the organization that started my career, because I am an alumni of the program.
Okay.
So I was able to intern in DC through College to Congress in 2018. And then, now helping oversee the organization and provide the same opportunity to students who place I was in not too long ago. It's just been amazing.
So as a young African American man, having the opportunity to traverse Capitol Hill and to your life to intersect with congressmen and senators and all these individuals, every now and then do you have to pinch yourself and say, wow?
Yeah, not every now and then. That's like pretty regularly. Like there was a day. So actually last week, I sat and I was on a panel discussion in front of a group of House congressional interns. There was about 300 some odd, students who are interning in Congress who will become staffers, if they choose to be so. And I was like, wow, like I can't believe that I'm here. I'm in the U.S. Capitol, giving us a talk to students, and teaching them how to be successful as an intern and then start a career on Capitol Hill. And I'm just like this is insane. I was like, I never would have thought, that this is where I would be. And growing up, like you watch TV shows like The West Wing, and things like that, where they kind of portray the federal government, right? And you don't see in those shows many black people, like, and I don't say I hate to say it, but like, for me, I've never felt like I couldn't do anything.
Right.
Like I kind of believe that to a fault. My parents will tell you, they're like, yeah, like DaQuawn lives in his own world of possibility. But at the same time, it's like when you don't see people like you, in these spaces, you just don't think about it as a reality. Even if it's you don't feel like you can't do it, but at the same time, it's like, I'm not thinking about it. And while I knew I always wanted to be in the government and work in government, I never thought that I would, be interacting with members of Congress, regularly. That I would, have advisors to presidents, in my own personal cabinet, and be in the rooms in which, I've fortunately been grateful enough to be in. And it's been amazing. Like some days I'm just like, I do this for a living. Like, this is pretty cool. Like today being a prime example, meeting with congressional staffers and helping provide opportunity to people who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford it. It's overwhelming at times. There are a lot of times where I feel like, am I the best person to be doing this? And I don't feel qualified for it. But in those moments, I think about the journey that I've been on, and I realize that there is another young person in Chicago who wants to make a difference, who just don't have the support to do it, and I want to be here and available when they reach out.
Right. So tell us a little bit about how a young person applies for this college to Congress.
Yeah. So they can go to our website, collegetocongress.org. And I will say, it is a very selective program.
Okay.
Like, as an intern, I was so shocked when I got into it. So I was like, y'all sure y'all want me? But you can apply through our website. We offer programming for summer, fall, and spring. And it's a 3-phase application process where we evaluate not just a person's desire to, work in public service, but we evaluate their collegiality, how well they, communicate and work with others. We evaluate their ability to think critically and discuss policy, their ability to understand legislation and the process by which legislation is created. We also do interviews, so we really work hard to identify applicants who not only, are smart, right, but who demonstrate a desire to serve, and can leverage their skills and talents for that.
At what age?
College age. So we mainly serve college juniors, seniors, and recent graduates who are Pell Grant eligible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, we met, and I'm excited for you and excited about what you're doing, but we met on an airplane.
Mm-hmm.
We met on an airplane. It was packed. And he tells me he's just coming back. And I'm like, okay. And I said, where you been? And he told me, he said, been gone for 3 months. I'm like, what? How do you go travel someplace for 3 months? Talk to us about it. Because we all want to know.
A laptop. That's how you do it. A laptop, a stable internet connection, and phone service. That's all you need. Yeah, but like I'm truly grateful that I'm in a career where I can work from anywhere. My job is to communicate with people. So if I have those 3 things, I can communicate with anybody. And then it sucks to say it, but the pandemic kind of shifted a lot in the world as far as like people wanting to have a flexible work environment where if the work doesn't demand that they be in person, do I truly need to be there? Do I truly need to occupy this office space, right? And I've always had a passion for travel. Like my mom and I used to get into very like heated arguments because I'm like, I just want to go, and she's like, we don't have the money. But her way of saying that was, if it's God's will, He'll make a way. And I was like, yeah, you said we broke, I know. So yeah, like from the onset of the pandemic, I have traveled almost consistent, like nonstop. And so, this most recent trip where we met, I was coming back from a tour of East Asia, and it was amazing. Like I had such a great time, loved every minute of it. I hit up 4 countries, Japan, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore.
Okay, wait a minute. See, he says it's just like it's nothing, but I'm going to ask him to repeat it again because you know what? Let's get your tea and let's sip on this a little bit more. Tell us again, what were the 4 countries?
It was Japan, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore.
What did you do in those countries?
A bit of everything. More than anything, I relaxed. That was it. I love beautiful scenery and water. Like if you can give me that, like I will just stay there all day, right? I can waste I wasted a couple of days just like looking out at these like islands and water and stuff like that. But I'm also like, I'm a very adventurous person, so did some kayaking, did some cave diving and cave explorations. I love to swim, so did that. And more than anything, I love meeting people. Yeah. Like I love interacting with people. So I speak 4 languages. And
you speak 4 languages. What are they?
I speak French, of course, English. And then a language called Wolof and another language called Serer.
Okay.
And
you didn't say
Wolof
Spanish.
I speak a little Spanish. Okay. I don't claim Spanish because, like, it's like a bar. In America, everybody learns Spanish. And I'm like, I'm functional.
Okay.
I can get around.
Okay.
But I can't speak it and sit and have a conversation
Okay.
and like, really be in it that well. So I don't really claim Spanish. But I always try to learn a new language. So like I got some skills in a bunch of other languages, but I would say the 4, those are the 4 that I speak. And when I was there in Thailand, I was trying to learn a little bit of Thai. When I went to Malaysia, there's a whole lot of languages in Malaysia. And so I was like trying to utilize a bit of my Chinese Mandarin skill. And more than anything, just going out and exploring new places, new people, food,
Yeah.
amazing food.
In our conversation, I think that was the one thing that I really enjoyed. You talked about the people that you had met along your way, and then your ability to serve
Yeah.
while you were there. So
Yeah.
share with us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So I've always been a person, and I think we talked about it before, like service is very close, to the heart. And being able to just give my time and my energy to help, right? That's like high on my values list. And so, last year I went to another country in East Asia that unfortunately I can't disclose, but it was right after the monsoon season. And, I went with just an open mind, like, this isn't about me. This is about helping people. There are people in need. I have the means, the resources, and the time to help. And so that's what I did. And, it was an amazing experience because you see people who, I hate to sound like, the normal, typical American who like, oh, they have so little. But like, it's true. Like, you see people who live happy, fulfilling lives with so much less, right? And they're willing to give everything, to be hospitable and to make a new friend, with you. And it's like, the least I can do is reciprocate that hospitality, right? And so like it was a truly amazing experience. We helped clean up messes from the disaster. We helped families move back into their homes. We helped local churches as well. And more than anything, as much as I could, you helped spread the gospel. I try to do like 3 big trips a year. But then also sometimes work in my business will take me other places as well. And any opportunity, any free time that I get to help and serve, I try to do it. And no matter how small, even if it's just, going out and, handing out food on the street or going to talk and teach I've done like workshops, professional development workshops for people. I always try to find an opportunity to give back.
So as a person of color, African American male, how do you mentally prepare yourself to go to these countries and then for them to receive you and for you to receive them? Because sometimes you're the first African American people have ever intersected with one-on-one, and all they know is what they've seen on the TV or something. So how do you mentally prepare and how do you present yourself in those countries?
Yeah. Well, I don't do much mental preparation. It ain't for me. It's more the mental preparation that I do is to prepare my mom and telling her that I'm going to this country. Like me traveling, oh my God, she just be like, "Yo, I'm just gonna lift you up in prayer because that's all I can do at this point." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's pretty much all you can do." Like there have been times where I would call her from the airport and she's like, "Where you going?" I was like, "Oh, I'm on my way to Dubai." She's like, "What?" But I've learned to be a little bit more cautious.
Okay.
And really do the time to do research ahead of a trip. I've always been like, I see a affordable flight, buy the flight first, get on the plane first, and then in the last 2 hours of the flight, that's when you do your research. And I'm like, I'll figure out what I want to do once I'm there. But for most of the time that works out for me. But when I travel with other people, it don't really work out that well. So kind of what I do now is I do take time. I search recommendations, and I take into account what other people's experiences have been, right? However, as Americans, I find that we have a general misconception about the rest of the world and how the rest of the world works, right? We're often, and not everyone, but many Americans, especially Black Americans, we don't go any places that as a group, many of us don't travel. All right. And so when you talk about going to, places like, Abu Dhabi and Dubai and Lebanon and Syria, even places in Africa, I go routinely to Senegal and South Africa and Egypt and places like that. like everybody has the idea of the worst possible scenario. They think that because one person got robbed, that everybody who goes is gonna get robbed. And I'm like, no, that's not the case. Like my grandma be like, don't they be doing this over there? I'm like, you watched that in a movie. I tell you, like I remember I went to Paris. She was like, don't they take people? I was like, that's a movie. Like I was sitting there like, tell me what do they do when they take people? Tell me about it. Not to say that those things don't happen, because they do, but like in mass, they're not. You know, it's not the reality that everybody can expect when they go to these places, right? So now I've learned to do that research, but also like I still want to experience it for myself, right? And as far as how I present myself, in a lot of contexts, I'm the only black person that's there. You know, one of the first that many people interact with, and I look intimidating. Like, you know, there's no way around it. Like, I'm a big black guy. Like, I look scary. Like literally, like, if I saw me walking down the street, I would go on the other way now. But like, I try to just be helpful. You know, I smile all the time. I can't help but smile. Like, so I'm always like that. But I approach my travels with a sense of curiosity and like wonder. You know, I'm not going into this place with any preconceived notions about what the experience will be. For the most part, I don't really travel to do luxurious things. You know, there are times and places for that, but when I travel, I want to be amongst the local people. So I, you know, will get a hotel or an Airbnb that is like in the heart of a community, right? And the thing I love about using Airbnbs is that it forces you to go out. It forces you to be out. Like, you don't have, you know, 24-hour, you know, maid service and, you know, room service. So you got to go out and do stuff. You got to go out and interact with people. And I try to picture what it's like to live there.